cheating on him for 3 years with his best friend. We had 2 kids, 3 and 6 years old. And he could have walked away, should have walked away, could have. And when all this came out, and I hid it for 3 years in the church, when all of this came out, he looked at me and listened. A good therapist knows your feelings are valid and you can feel all of those things. He was mad, he was hurt, he was confused, he was disoriented. All those things were still true. None of that was underscored or not a part of his experience. But what was also a part of his experience, because he had been submitting and surrendering to the Lord so faithfully for so long, was he literally looked at me, and all I expected him to do was exactly what every man had done in my life, my dad, all these other men, was to leave. And instead, he looked at me and he said, "Casey, I don't know how to not love you." That is when Jesus became my Lord. That is when I got grace for the first time in my life. I realized that that is what Jesus had been saying to me all along. You don't understand, girl. You can run from me. You can hide from me. You can be mad at me. You can do all these things. And the reality is, I don't know how to not love you. I've been cheating.
So let me get something straight here. You expect me to believe that the way God wanted to show you his perseverance in your life is for you to go out and cheat on your husband with his best friend while attending the same congregation? Just let that sink in. I just don't see it. It's just the math ain't mathing to me. 1 + 1 ain't 2 for me. It's just not clicking. It's just not clicking. It's just not making sense. God gives us free will for a reason. We are able to make our own decisions. We have our own thought process. And ultimately, what we decide to do on this earth falls on our shoulders. Right? You're not going to sit here and convince me of this sob story and you use Jesus as the reason why you did the things you did while married with kids. And because your husband decided to stay and he said, and I quote, "I don't know how to not love you," you took that as a sign. You took that as a sign. Sometimes, man, we're off. We're off of what we think, what we believe. Sometimes it's just not accurate, right? And honestly, her husband could have forgave her in this situation, but he didn't have to stay. You know, just like the Lord restored her, you know, the Lord will need to restore him as well, with somebody else that actually values him as a husband, as a father, and a provider, assuming that he played a traditional role in that setting. We have normalized using religious bases or normalize using God or Jesus, whatever you believe in the upper room, as a crutch for our bad behaviors and our decisions that we make in life. And somebody has to start holding people accountable for their actions. You know, that's like me getting a gun and, you know, just for example purposes, I go and shoot up a college and say, well, God told me to do it. What? Like, what are we talking about here? No, I do believe in certain aspects that God can give you signs. People can have true testimonies. Miracles can happen. But then we also have to separate that from the bull, from the BS. I'm sorry. To me, it's just straight bullshit.
A couple times early on, but I decided not to go forward with that. I trust her. You signed a prenup? funny, I did bring it up a couple times early on, but I decided not to go forward with that. I trust her.
Ooh, Jesus. This has been going viral too. Now, unlike the last situation, and we're talking about the majority here, not the minority. Let a man cheat on his wife with her best friend. They have kids and they attend the same congregation. She is taking him to the cleaners. She is taking him to the cleaners for everything he got. The court system do not award cheating. They don't. And that's one thing I will stand by that probably does not need to be rewritten in family court laws. Probably the only thing I would say that does not need to be rewritten. If you cheat and you're married, you do not get anything. You don't get alimony. You don't get asset division. Nothing. You don't get no retirement. So when this young man, Larry, says that he trusts his supermodel girlfriend to not get a prenup, only time will tell whether he was stupid or whether he was spot on. And I need people to understand this when it comes to marriage and when it comes to relationships. Everything is all fine and dandy when they're in love with you and they genuinely want to be with you and everything is roses. What changes naturally as humans to be deceitful, spiteful, have revenge against another person. When it comes to an end, and let's say somebody really screws up, all that stuff you talked about 5-10 years ago at the beginning of your marriage goes out the window. Completely goes out the window. Everything that was said, I would never do this, I would never take you to the cleaners, you know, everything will be done fairly. All of that goes out of the window. And I don't understand why we have example after example after example of us getting wiped out, the majority, and we're not doing what we need to do to protect ourselves when the divorce rate is at an all-time high, right above 65%. And again, statistically speaking, women are initiating majority of the divorces. What are we doing? Yo, let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Is Larry Wheels, is he a fool? I'm looking at all the comments right now. Majority of them think he's a fool. Again, only time will tell. And do you think we need to stop using religion as a crutch for our bad behaviors? I love you. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.